Hello guys, welcome back to CS with Mr. G. In this lesson of Unit 4, Processor Fundamentals, we are going to look at the term assembly language and look at some of the basics behind assembly language, including just exactly what assembly language is, the relationship between assembly language and what we call machine code. We're also going to look at this term two-pass assembler and the process of converting assembly language into machine language. And something we're not going to look at today, but we will in a future lesson, is the process of tracing an assembly language program and following instructions in assembly language, but we won't go through the process of tracing the program itself. Today is all about understanding what it is, looking at the theory concepts behind assembly language, and again this term two-pass assembly, which is quite a tricky topic, but we will go through it today. But first we need to understand one of the absolute basics and principles behind computer science, and this is the term machine code, or what we looked at in Unit 1, which is binary. We know that all data in a computer needs to be converted into machine code, so in terms of programming languages, we need to show the process of getting our languages into zeros and ones using our prior knowledge of the fetch execute cycle, which we've looked at in this unit already. So something mentioned in GCSE was the fact that different CPUs and different computer chips have their own set of machine code instructions. This is important to understand for this topic, but in this lesson we're not going to go into too much detail. I just need you to understand that different CPUs follow different sets of instructions when they are processing the binary numbers they are given. A really abstract example is that an application written for iOS, designed to run on Apple phones, wouldn't be able to be run on an Android phone as they have completely different chips inside and the instructions wouldn't tie up. Remember, all a program is lines of code, written instructions, and these instructions are converted into binary. We've already mentioned the fetch execute cycle in the previous lesson, and this fetch execute cycle is simply receiving these instructions in binary, executing them, and going to the next instruction. Now, obviously, machine code is almost impossible for humans to read. We could never read in zeros and ones. We do use hexadecimal, also mentioned in Unit 1, to make things easier, but one of the first languages that was ever invented was the term assembly language, which is what we will look at today. And as we can see, assembly language is a language that is directly translated from machine code into some kind of mnemonic. And a mnemonic is a simple abbreviation for an instruction, for example, add, increment, and decrement, which you can see here. And as I've just said, each of these mnemonics are directly translated into machine code, which is a binary number. So as an example, you can see here, LDD total. This could be written in hexadecimal in the middle, which we don't need to worry about. What's more important is that this instruction would be received by the CPU in binary as this number here. So we have assembly language on this side and machine code on this side, and LDD total is represented by this number here. We also have the instruction add 20 seen here. So add again is a mnemonic. We are adding the number 20 to something. We have the hexadecimal equivalent and then the machine code written in binary. So again, this is something that a human could not possibly write, and is the reason why assembly language was created many years ago, so we could give the computer instructions using a language that we could understand as humans, using letters and words that we could have some kind of comprehension. So one more time, assembly language mnemonics are directly translatable into machine code binary. Now, something we have to show a knowledge of when it comes to these machine code instructions is the terms opcode and operand. Again mentioned in GCSE, but we'll cover it now. Each instruction has what we call an opcode and an operand. The opcode is the actual instruction that's being carried out. So as we mentioned before, LDD is for loading, add is simply addition, STO is for storing data. These are what we call opcodes because they are telling the CPU to carry out a certain function. Along with those opcodes, as you can see, we've got the number 20. We've got a variable called total. We've got some kind of data alongside that opcode, and this is what we refer to as an operand. So an operand is the data that's being used by the opcode. You can simply imagine it as a mathematical equation. If we had the equation 3 plus 3, the opcode would simply be the addition sign, and the operands would be the 3 and the 3. It's the exact same thing, but they can be easily confused. But just think opcode, code is the instruction, that's telling the CPU what to do. Operand is the data that's going with it. So you can see here the red for the opcode is represented here in hexadecimal, and the operand in green is also here. In the binary code, it would have been exactly the same. Literally split these in half. These would be the opcodes, and these will be the operands. Nice and simple. So opcode and operand, really simple. And just while we're here, I just thought I'd touch on different levels of languages. We've already mentioned the lowest levels, which are assembly and machine code. On the left-hand side is the lowest of levels, so machine code, binary numbers. We can't get any lower than this language, but we can see that assembly language still falls under the category of a low-level language, but it's higher up the chart than machine code, as we do have some kind of understanding. Again, using those mnemonics, as humans we can read and understand them. But what happens as we go further up the line, we then start to implement higher level languages. So the highest level of languages are actual languages that we speak as humans. So English that I'm speaking right now is the highest level of language in terms of this chart. But you can also see we've got other languages along the way, C, Java, Python. These are high-level languages, also pseudocode, which we write in this course. We consider them high-level languages because we have a good understanding of what they are doing. They use written words, print, if, input, words that we can understand as humans. So they are what we consider high-level languages. Now, what we have to do in order to convert these high-level languages into machine code, we go through this process of what we call assembly. So before the CPU can process these instructions, it needs the instructions written in machine code in ones and zeros, which remember is electrical impulses, and then the CPU can deal with it, but we need to get from the high-level language into the machine code using this process. So the learning objective of this lesson was to understand what we call two-pass assembly, and all this means is that we go from here to here, not once, but twice. So we go through the process 2 times, and the reason why it does this is because it needs to handle what we call labels, or essentially names of memory locations. So if you've seen before, there was 2 different types of operands that we had. We had one called total and one which was literally the number 20. Now total refers to a location rather than actual value. So the reason why we need to go through the assembler twice is in case we have any labels for this data, and that we can replace the labels with actual memory locations. Now, to understand what's going on and to answer a typical exam style question, we need to explain what's going on in detail during each pass. So the first pass, which is the first time the instructions are read, the assembler is simply collecting the information, going through line by line, ignoring any program comments, and assigning any memory addresses for each of the instructions. It makes sure that the instructions are valid and then stores any labels, which we've just mentioned, in what we call a symbol table so that we can come back and get the addresses of those symbols in the second pass. So in the process before, which was add total, total will be stored in the symbol table so that on the second pass, we can go and get the total from its actual address in memory. Total is just a label. It contains a value, but we don't have that value to hand on the first pass. We need to go to the second pass and refer back to the symbol table to go and get the data from the memory address, which has this label, and then we can actually execute the instruction. So the second pass, we have the machine code ready, but we just need to get the data from these labels and combine them with the current machine code so we can execute the instruction. So a little hint, on the first pass, we need to think, let's make a list of where everything is being stored, and then on the second pass, get that data from the list and build the final program. So it is quite a complex process. I understand that there's a lot to understand for what seems quite a simple process, but everything you can see here is exactly what you need to know. A typical example question for this will be to identify the purpose of the first pass in a 2-pass assembler. Now, if we go back to this process, we can see that a symbol table was created, and that will be a perfect answer for this question. So to create a symbol table. In the second pass, the symbol table will contain the memory addresses so we can build the final program and execute the instruction. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Hopefully we can now explain the relationship between assembly language and machine code. We can describe the stages during the 2-pass assembly. All of this here we're going to look at in another lesson, but I just thought I'd leave that in there so we could see there's more to assembly language than what we've discussed today. So hopefully I'll see you in that lesson. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you for joining me on this lesson.